Welcome to this week's episode of the Bank Free Blueprint Podcast, where I have a special guest, a close friend of mine. He's a transformational coach, a speaker, a former attorney. He's owned a restaurant, so he's very familiar with operating businesses. He's done some amazing workshops, and I've had the opportunity to work with our guest at some really inspirational and transformational workshops over the last 5-6 months. So welcome to the show, Matt Schaefer.
Thanks, Tom. So happy to be here, man. I love it. I love the tables being turned here. You interviewing me now. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I can tell you that I've had such a good experience with working with you and different team members that you and I have worked with in the past. And I thought what would be better than for us to be able to have a chat and talk a bit about things such as mindset. So as you know, in business, actually in any form, any way of life, there's always we work with mindset. The mindset can either take us places where we really want to go, or sometimes it can take us places where we don't necessarily want to go all the time. And so, I appreciate you taking the time here. And I think that we'll be able to maybe give some good information for our listeners about mindset as it relates to real estate investing and or maybe just life in general. So maybe you could just share just a few thoughts and just go from there.
Well, when I hear the word mindset, what comes up to me is, it really can either make or break you. You know, my mindset has nearly destroyed me to the point where, I woke up not being able to breathe in my sleep because I was abusing drugs because of my business was doing so poorly. This was when I owned my restaurant that I actually, I kind of gave up.
Yeah.
To a degree on myself and on my life. And I was, abusing narcotics. And it got to the point where I woke up because I couldn't breathe in my sleep. And that was the mindset. That was all a byproduct of the mindset. Like, you really have to look at your physical reality and realize that all it is a reflection. It's a mirror for your mindset at the time. The people around you, the experiences that you're having, the occupation that you're in and everything, the money in your bank accounts, all a reflection of your mindset,
Yeah.
And so that's why, that's the danger in, I think, over identifying ourselves with what we do, is that we allow what we do to define us, or we allow what we have to define us. And then that's taking our power away of us to create our own empowered mindset,
Yeah.
We're giving our power away.
So Matt, that was you before I knew you, right?
Yes.
And so obviously there's been a massive change, because what I see now is someone who is totally together, someone who really has a handle on mindset, mind shifts. I know you and I have had some very interesting sessions where you've taken me places where I really had no idea even that was an option, or that, through a thought process and whatnot. And so I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of how you got to that point where you really are in control like you are now. And by the way, if anybody's looking, Matt, you're also doing a Facebook Live at this time. So cool.
I am. Yeah. It's kind of fun to, get it from two angles. Yeah. This is a good time. So yeah. And really, my mindset, because the way I've created the life that I have for myself is through reprogramming my mind and removing my limiting beliefs, and just one at a time, identifying these toxic thoughts that we create that are holding us back, causing us to play small, causing us to believe that we live in a win-lose world where other people have to, suffer in order for us to succeed. That scarcity mindset, that there's only a limited amount of whatever available, therefore I have to take somebody else's. Otherwise there's not enough for me, And so, my own hero's journey was in, all of those old paradigms and systems that I had created for myself around scarcity and anger falling away, and me realizing that I am source and that everybody is here to support each other. And we live in a universe that will conspire to help us if we come to it with a positive, loving, trusting, connected mindset. And I think that applies to personal life. It applies to business. It applies to everything. And so the universal pattern, and you, Tom, are one of the prime examples of a man who, you maintain a positive mindset. You love very powerfully, when you allow your heart to open, and you will give anything for the people in your life. And that is, I think that's a fundamental reason that in your work ethic that you are as incredibly successful as you are.
Thank you.
You are the king of mindset.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. You just mentioned something that I think is really powerful, and that's it ties in with what we talk about a lot here on the Bang Free Blueprint podcast, and that is a situation working in I'll call it situations, but in cases where we work together, and there does not have to be a win and lose. It can be a win-win where everybody rises up because everybody is working together. Collaboration is so critical, and especially in investing, where there, sometimes fear and greed and scarcity mentality that can creep into the business world a lot more than I think it should, or than I think it needs to. And so having that ability to really pull things together so it's a win-win for everyone. In what we talk about, there's sort of the investing spectrum. Let's just take real estate, for example. There's the people with the deals on one side of the spectrum. They maybe don't have a lot of money. There's people with money who don't have a lot of time and don't want to do a lot of work. So teaming those people up, and that's where there can be good, solid deals done. And so maybe if you can just, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to elaborate on that, but that was a very powerful point.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the fact that every connection we make with another human being, whether it be personally, professionally, or otherwise, it's all an energetic exchange, right? So we make a choice on, what we want to do in relationship with that person. We can give them energy in good faith and then be open to receiving energy back from them and create a positive, constructive, energetic exchange where both parties are feeding each other. And, you can make a deal that would be in alignment with that is a deal where everybody makes money, everybody respects the intentions of the other party, both parties go into that deal in good faith. And, nobody's trying to screw somebody, and it's the same in personal relationships. Go into it with an open mind and open heart and, make your intentions known at the beginning, be vulnerable about what you want and what you need to be happy. And if that's in alignment, you make the deal, you go into the relationship. And or you can be in a net negative relationship where you feel like you have to take from somebody else in order to get yours. And that's that scarcity mindset. That's the sort of mindset that will hold you back if you allow it to dictate the way you do your deals or do your relationships. Either way.
Yeah, no. And so the first step is always to acknowledge what the situation is, what the answers are, and all of that. So if listeners are wondering how to make that shift, so there's the understanding that is where it's at, but then there's also sort of the breakthrough, how to get to that breakthrough of really making that change and making it become a part of a part of who we are rather than just in words. Any thoughts? Yeah.
Well, the first part is, I think, recognizing where your limiting beliefs are, recognizing what has not worked for you in the past in the way that you've been in relationship. Like, what deals where have you screwed people in the past? Where have you been screwed? What stories did you make up when that happened to you? Did you decide that you can't trust people because you got burned in a deal, or did you screw somebody and you're holding on to guilt and shame about that? And how are you projecting that forward into your future business deals? Like, that's something that happens to, I think, to a lot of people. They project their past stuff onto their present and future. As soon as you identify those, they start to lose their power. Because a lot of times I think they operate subconsciously, like we just accept these things as truth without really looking at them and realizing that it's just a wound.
Right. Well, and that definitely hits a chord with me, because as you and I have spoken in the past, one of the things that I've had the opportunity to deal with is being able to trust other people in business because of some of the things that I had gone through over the last what was it? With the downturn in the economy 18 years ago. And so that has made a big difference for me, being able to acknowledge, see what it is, and really just treat it only for what it is, and then move on. And so that I can see where that's definitely powerful. Is there any suggestion that you have? So let's say that I'm trying to figure out what my limiting beliefs are. Is there a process? Is there some sort of a way that listeners can maybe identify or list out when they're listing out their whatever the limiting beliefs are?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of cool things I like to do. The first is an acronym called BETDAR. That's BETDAR. And that's basically tracing it's basically following the money. You know how you say, like, why are things the way they are? Follow the money, like go up the chain. Well, this is that for your emotions. Okay. So it's BETDAR. BET is, it's a belief, emotion, thought. Okay. So that's what happens internally. That's the internal portion of it. You have a belief that leads to an emotion, which leads to a thought. That's the first stage. And then you have DAR, decision, action, results. So based upon the thoughts that you have, you make a decision. That decision leads to an action. That action leads to a result. So no matter where you are in that continuum of any, that's the process of everything we do follows that BETDAR model, right? And it all goes back to that belief. So if you're taking an action that doesn't feel good, it's like, okay, well, let's look at the decision I made that led to that action. And then let's look at, the thought that I had that led to me making that decision. And then the emotion that I had that led to me, taking that thought. And then you get back to the belief. Reverse at the core of all of our results are the beliefs that led us to get there.
Yes.
So that's and you can write them out. I think it's helpful because I'm a visual person. I like to write this stuff out. And so if something's coming up that I'm not digging, I'm like, okay, well, let me write down what that is. If it's a thought, it's like, cool, I'm further up the line. I have less ways to go.
Okay. Could you just give maybe one or two examples of, let's say someone is having a challenge with something, maybe just an example of what that might look like walking through.
Okay. So let's say the result is that they're in that they think, or let's say just a simple example, like they have financial scarcity, like they're not making the money that they want to make in their job or in their career. So that's the result.
Okay.
Right? So the result. So then you look at the action that led to that result. The action is they've been in, the same job for the last 20 years, no matter what's happened as the economy's gone down, they haven't gotten a raise, et cetera, et cetera. So then from there, you look at the decision that led to them taking that action. The decision they made was like, I'm going to stay in this job no matter what. This is my job. This is what I do. So then it's like, okay, what was the thought that led to me making that decision? The thought was, well, if I lose this job, I'm never going to be able to get another job. Like I'm lucky that I have this job. I'm so glad I got this job. And then the emotion behind that thought is fear.
Okay.
Fear, fear of not being able to find another job, fear of not having enough money, fear of losing everything. And then the belief behind that is we live in a world of scarcity. We live in a world of lack. There's not enough for me. I don't have other options. This is the best thing that's possible for me right now. And the belief that's behind that is, I'm not worthy of creating what I want. I don't live in an abundant world.
Okay. So that one, if you can tie those two a little tighter, just maybe describe them a little bit more.
What, the beliefs?
Yeah. Being able to really make that connection of the
so then, like you basically that there is not, that I cannot create abundance. it's a belief that we decide about ourselves, that I cannot create the abundance that I want in my life. If I don't, cling to what I have, there isn't more out there for me. I will lose the limited stuff that I have. It's that I live in a world of scarcity. I don't live in a world where I can attract support.
So it could be limiting beliefs of even the belief of abundance, right?
100%. Well, yeah, you don't believe in abundance.
Right.
You believe in scarcity. That's your fundamental belief. And so then from there, you got that belief. Then it's like, okay, when did that belief start? Did it start when you watched your mom cry, balancing the checkbook every day when you were little? Did your dad tell you you're never going to amount to shit because you're stupid? And you're like when did you decide, when did you adopt into your DNA that belief that we live in a scarce, ominous, aggressive, world that is not in our favor? When did you believe that you weren't enough? When did you decide to make up that story about yourself?
Right.
And once you figure that out, you're like, oh, okay, none of this shit is real. It's just a wound that I've been carrying around my entire life. And then it's just in that awareness, even before you replace it with something else, just in that awareness that it's not actually an objective reality, it loses a lot of its power. It doesn't go away completely necessarily, but it does lose, because you separate it from your identification of who you are, or your identification of what the world is, because you recognize it as an emotional reaction to a trauma that you suffered at some point in your life.
And that sort of getting that, we'll say, under control a bit, allows an opening, or it allows space for other things to come in.
Yeah, it allows you to change those beliefs, because you map them out, you understand where they came from, and then you make a choice, because all of our life is about choices, right? You make a choice to adopt a different belief.
Yeah.
You make a choice to identify that as not correct, and you make a choice that you do live in an abundant world. You are capable of creating whatever you want in your life. You are worthy of abundance, worthy of living a prosperous life, because you are worthy and you provide value to other people, at a high level, and you are worthy of being, compensated for that. And if you don't want this job anymore, you get to go get a new job.
Yeah.
That respects you and makes you feel the way you want to feel, and pays you the way you want to be paid.
Yeah. It's amazing how powerful those limiting beliefs are, right? I mean, it's just to be able to chip away at that and really and understand that those are just limiting beliefs, and not give them the power that they have. That, I think, is where we start reforming or reformulating our life and our life plan and everything that goes with it. How about, so going down this path just a bit further, what might be a couple of things that one does at this point, and then how do you create consistency, or how certain things, if we have a good idea at some point, or something sounds really good at some point, but then it kind of falls by the wayside. Any advice or thoughts on how to really make this stick and really be powerful?
Well, I mean, habit and ritual are huge, and writing stuff down is big for me. So really having a gratitude list, of, the things that you're grateful for, the blessings that exist in your life.
Yes.
As I think it's important, even if you're not feeling it, just to read it every day in the morning, and set the frame for you when you move forward in your life. Because you have to think of this, your beliefs, positive or negative, are the lens through which you process your world, and you process yourself. Everything that happens to you travels through the filter and the lens of your beliefs. So the more conscious we are about our beliefs and the way that we manage them, the more control and the more power we have over the way we show up in the world. It's going to impact your life and your everything. So really keeping a gratitude and a belief journal, like, these are my values. This is what I believe in. This is what I believe about myself. And when something comes up that's not in alignment with that, you get to address it and acknowledge it. And okay, this isn't like this belief of, I can't trust this person.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? Because that's not in alignment with my belief of trust first and respond with compassion. I have something I like to say that I don't know, came up with a while ago. It's like, lead with love and respond with compassion. Right. So it's like always lead with love and trust, like have that be what you front load. And then as people maybe undermine that, or they don't reciprocate or respond, then you just get to have compassion that they're at where they're at, you know, and they're doing the best that they can from their level of consciousness. And, you know, you're just compassionate towards them. And maybe you adjust your expectations a little bit at that time. But you always want to front end lead, especially in business, with the belief that, you know, everybody is here to win. Everybody is here to help everybody else win. And then if people aren't in alignment with that, then maybe you don't get to do business with those people.
Yeah. And that totally hits a chord for me, because the amount of power that we can gain once we let go of allowing others to have power over us. Right. And so to be able to say, yeah, that happened. They did the best they could with what they had to work with. I know in some cases it's really hard to do that, but being able to do it really takes a weight off of our shoulders, because if somebody is holding that against us, or we're holding it against ourselves, it's baggage that we really don't. Why deal with it? Why not just let it go?
It's not serving anybody. And really the bottom line is, I talk about this a lot, is that like you literally have control over nothing external to you. No people, none of their reactions. You can't control the outcome of a deal. You can't control the outcome of your job. You can't control the outcome of anybody or anything else in the world, no matter how hard you try.
Yes.
Other than your reaction to what occurs in your life. You know, that is what you have. You have control over whether you're going to be proactive or reactive. You have control over how you manage your emotions. You have control over how you manage your beliefs. And really everything external to that, you get to let go of that need to control, because what does that need to control come from? You know, if you bet that's going to come back to insecurity. It's going to come back to fear. It's going to come back to the feeling of, you know, like, I need to make sure that this person doesn't fuck me over. Like it's kind of, there's all these weird beliefs that are going to be, you know, undermining that. And the bottom line is, it's all an illusion. Control is an illusion, and so is perfection. So like just letting go of the sense that you can control the outcome of a deal, but that a deal is ever going to be perfect. Just letting all of that stuff go and just acting in good faith and with trust and love throughout the process, I think is, you know, how you're going to create the sort of business relationships that you talk about in your awesome book and on this podcast, you know? Yeah.
And so there's always it's about doing the due diligence. It's about making sure that we're making great decisions, but also knowing at what point is it just something that is not in our control. And so the minute that we realize what's not in our control that we thought was, that's a weight off of our shoulders. It opens up a space for so much more valuable things, thoughts, everything else to come into our lives. So there's a book that I just finished about a week ago. It's called Inner Engineering. And I don't recall the author's name. If I think of it, I'll put it in the show notes here. But powerful book. And it goes directly to what you're talking about. The fact that we really don't have any control over anything except what's inside of us and what our thoughts are. So
absolutely. I want to check that book out, Tom. Send me a link to that. And just the final piece of that is to not be outcome dependent or in judgment about the way a deal turns out. Like if it shits the bed, you know, like if it just goes down in flames, fantastic, because failure and stuff like that gives us such incredible feedback. It's such valuable information. A lot of times even more valuable than a successful deal. Because in a massive failure, you can look back in hindsight and be like, okay, this went wrong. I missed this red flag. I responded wrong in this situation, blah, 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 blah. Whereas with the success, sometimes it can just be, I was in the right place at the right time. You know, like it happened by accident. But failure doesn't happen by accident. Failure happens for very specific reasons. And there's always incredibly valuable data that you can use to forward you and help you grow in your next deal, in your next relationship, in your next whatever. So really, like, always understanding that, you know, life is happening for you, and recognizing the blessings that are happening in all situations, not just the ones that, you know, make you feel good. Is I think a critical component to continuing to grow and not get stagnant.
Nice. So investors, sometimes there are investors that are caught up in the I can't find a deal, I can't find the right investment, I can't the real estate, there just are no deals out there. Limiting belief in my
Huge.
mind.
Yeah.
There are investors passive investors who maybe have money that they want to invest, but they have a hard time kind of making that decision to just move forward and do something. So they get caught in, or we get caught in this procrastination mode. And so I could see we're going through this process that you talk about of really listing out our emotions, and it's BET-DAR, which is belief, emotion, thought, right? And then decision, action, results.
Mm-hmm.
And we just went through the process that we go through, that one can go through to do that. Another thing that I thought was powerful was the gratitude list. Could you maybe just share what your routine is as it relates to gratitude list and what you've seen for results and outcomes from that?
Well, I mean, I do a couple things. I do my gratitude list. And so when I get up, I talk about, I just have like a basic level of like, I am an abundant man.
Mm-hmm.
I am a storyteller. I love my work. I'm loved and supported by many around me. I am continually bringing abundance into my life in many different ways. I am love. I am a light worker. Like I just have like a bunch of affirmations, and I'm grateful for, the fact that I support others in achieving their highest purpose. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for my rickety little beach house here in Ocean Beach that I love to death. I'm grateful to be, a stone's throw from the ocean. I'm grateful to be connected to a network of world-changing leaders like you, who I know would give me the shirt off their back, especially you. I sat in the ER with you with a busted toe until 5 a.m. So
wasn't that a party, huh?
I know that you would give me a shirt if I asked you for a shirt.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I so appreciate our friendship. And it's been.
Yeah. And so getting in that space of gratitude really helps. And another practice that, I do when I'm in my highest purpose of my morning routine, I do every morning, is a daily audit of the day before. So I do a journal entry where I take sometimes I'll do bullets, sometimes I'll do it as a story, but I do an audit of the yesterday. And I talk about what worked and what didn't. Like I'm really proud of how I handled this situation. This is what I learned. I really, screwed up that situation. This was an amazing outcome. My energy level was pretty good. I ate pretty good. I just kind of go through the day and just talk about what's coming up for me. You will learn so much if you just take 10, 20 minutes and reflect back upon your yesterday. And those start to stack up after a while. And then you can look back at the last month and you've learned like 100, 200 things. But if you don't practice that conscious awareness of your behavior and your actions and your beliefs and look at the way you're showing up in the world on a daily basis, it can kind of get lost in the wash, because we can't see our nose for our face. But when you write it out, at least for me, you really can.
Yeah.
So something else I highly recommend people to do.
Imagine that combination with adding in the possibility of a vision board. A vision board where we're identifying what's holding us back. We're identifying ways that we can adjust things. We're identifying what we're grateful for. We're doing that on a consistent basis. We're evaluating what has happened over the past day or whatever, and then creating that vision board that really opens up so many possibilities, so many opportunities. And so
profound. And another thing to add on to that, just while we're on that train of thought, is right next to your vision board or right across from your vision board, have an accomplishment board. Where you have illustrations of, or a list of, or different representations of all the things that you have created in your life already. Like the things that migrate things as they're coming from your vision board to your accomplishment board. That way you have a reminder, not just of what you want, but of what you've created. Because I think it's super important, not just that we stay, aware of what we want, but we stay aware of the fact that we're divine creators.
Yes.
And that we have the power, because I think we have a lot of times to focus. We focus on what we don't have. We get preoccupied with the gap between where we are and where we want to be, instead of realizing, look where I was a year ago. Look
Yeah.
where I was friggin' 5 years ago. Like I just did a really vulnerable post on my Facebook because a Facebook memory came up of me 5 years ago. Me and my parents. My parents had come out here 5 years ago to visit me, and like I got kind of overwhelmed because they just visited me again like last couple weeks ago. You know, so I have like this really interesting barometer of like when they visited me now,
Yeah.
when they visited me half a decade ago, and
Wow.
my entire life at that time was falling apart because
Yeah.
I had been living so inauthentically and so ego driven, and I was so disconnected from who I was. You know, that I was way off in the weeds. You know, and I hid it very
Yeah.
well when they were out here, but my life was crumbling, you know? And so just to like look at where I'm at now and the path I'm on and the world that I've created for myself supposed to then, and it helps you understand that like you have got so much power, like you are
Absolutely.
source, you know, and just reminding yourself of that when those limiting beliefs start to creep in, just recognize that those are just scars
Right.
barking at you, you know, they're not who you are. Who you
Yeah.
are is a divine creator, and that you can really literally make whatever you want happen in your life as long
Yeah.
as you say so and as long as you choose to
Right.
believe it.
Well, I would just have to say you're an absolute walking billboard for what you teach, what you coach, what you share, because I just would never have imagined that the other side that you talk about that we've shared earlier. But it's
Yeah.
amazing what you've been able to do with these things. And again, just to recap, we talked about the first exercise of the BET-DAR. So that's belief, emotion, thought, decision, actions, and results. So that's the first exercise. Second exercise, being the analytical mind that I am, I like to have the
Love your exercises. That's why I had to give you exercises. I knew that was important to you.
right. So the second one being the gratitude list, coming
Yeah.
up with a list of things that we're grateful for, and really keeping that in front of us, whether it's taping it on the mirror in the morning or at by the bedside at night, really keeping a list of what we're grateful for.
Another fun thing to do, record it. Record yourself saying it. I like to have mantras that I'll put on some music in the background. I actually did that this morning with my vision. I
Yeah.
recorded myself saying my vision really passionately, and I have it in my little voice recorder. And you can just put that on loop and go out and
Sure.
run a couple miles and just hear it over and over and over again until it's like in your brain.
Right. That's a great idea. So,
Yeah.
so the gratitude list, then the vision board, creating the vision board, but not only that, creating an accomplishment board, an accomplishment list, and being able to do all of those things, that opens up so much more of a space for the abundance of life to come in, and for us to really be able to live a life that we plan, a life that we really want. And I know that's part of your coaching, is what you do is you coach for really, I think it's about creating a higher living, like really living. I think you have it, live your higher purpose.
Yeah, your highest purpose, you know, which all is predicated on your understanding of who you actually are, not who you've convinced yourself that you are, you know, that limited version of ourselves that we've allowed ourselves to believe based upon our experiences in the world, you know, like really cutting through all that noise and all those limiting beliefs and figuring out who you actually are and what you're actually capable of creating, and then creating from that space.
Yeah.
That's how your life really begins to unfold in a magical way. And that's the sort of coaching that I love to do, because there's nothing more incredible than watching like the light go off in somebody's head when they realize, oh my God, like.
Well, and that's where it's been really powerful for me, is that you have been able to help me get to the point where I'm able to get out of my head a lot more. And by getting out of my head, I mean, there's this continuous kind of thought storm going on of all the different things in life, and all what I should be doing, what I could be doing, what's the future. I mean, all of the shoulds that we put on ourselves. And so being able to get out of our head and into our hearts, lead from the heart rather than from the head. And so that has been really powerful. And I think, I mean, you definitely have that down. And so you're doing some very amazing things, and I can only imagine where you're going to be going from here. So it's been really.
Me too. I'm imagining it too.
Yeah. Right. Good.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
If listeners would like, well, maybe could you give, maybe if something comes to mind, one piece of advice that you might have for listeners? Is there anything that comes to mind, or maybe one resource? Or
I would say that, I mean, the number one thing that I keep coming back to right now, it's coming up for me in my life and in the lives of my clients and everything else, is really being deliberate about finding the blessing. You know, finding the blessing in your past, finding the blessing in your present, and really recognizing and reframing that whatever you've experienced in your life and what you're currently experiencing is exactly what is supposed to be happening for you.
Yeah.
You know, because there is a blessing there. Like I have had things happen to me in my life that, I mean, would be shocking to some people, and to some people, like they hear about that and they think about that, and if they're like, oh, if that happened to me, I would just, you know, kill myself or give up or whatever. And again, that's always a choice that you have. Or you can look at why that is one of the most important positive things that has happened for you, like losing that job, car accident, like whatever, or whatever great things have happened to you. They're all blessings, you know, because they've created who you are right now, and who you are right now is perfect for where you get to go next.
Yes. And so while we're in the middle of the storm, it's really hard to see why we're in the storm. Why did we get selected for that storm? What's a bigger purpose? But if we think back, at least I know for myself, there's been several pretty big things that have happened in my life, and they weren't necessarily good, at least from first glance or going through them. They certainly did not feel good. But I look back and I think that's part of what made me who I am today. And so if as listeners are listening to this or watching this, I think I'm going to guess that there are going to be quite a few people that can relate to that the thing that was the toughest probably also had some really valuable lessons that have made us more of what we are, more, you know, different people anyway.
Exactly. And then there's a perverse logic to it, where it's like almost like the bigger the collapse, like the bigger the more suffering situation it is, the more powerful and the more profound the lesson is that you're learning from it. So really, like the bigger the shitstorm is, really, like I get excited now when I just see some whole part of my life just blow up or some crazy thing happen. I'm like, oh man, that amazing stuff is coming. Like you develop this sick sort of excitement about like about when terrible things happen, because you realize this is just the next step, and this is a big step in your own personal evolution. You know, and sometimes things need to fall away in order for massive growth to happen. So that failed deal, whatever it is, I mean, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. The cool part, the fun part is just figuring out where that blessing is, like getting to the bottom of it, you know, and that's what I love to do as a coach.
That reminds me of growing up. I had a lot of siblings, a lot of older brothers, and one of the things that when something would happen, it was, well, that's right, it builds character. And over time, it's like, man, I think I have plenty of character. I don't need any more of this to happen. But it is one of those things where the more that happens, the tougher it is, the more lessons we learn, the more powerful and impactful those lessons can be. So
exactly. And so just find the blessing, you know, because there's always one. If you choose to find it, or you can be in victim and give your power away and say, poor me, and, you know, sit in your shit. That's always available to you as well. You know, and that's a choice you make every day. Like you choose to, you know, be woe is me and go drink a bottle of Jameson and, you know, sit on the couch and lament your poor life.
And blame it on other people.
And blame it on the people that did it to you and everybody else, and not take responsibility for it. Or you can recognize that you're the sole uncontested author of everything in your life, take responsibility for it, and manage your emotions around it, and get into committed action to make the changes and to learn the lessons from that stuff and make the changes necessary so that particular thing does not happen again.
Yes.
You can grow and expand from it. But again, the choice is always yours to make.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Wow, this has been great. So any last resources, anything you can think of? If do you have any, like a favorite book or a favorite website or a favorite
I like to recommend, I'd like to recommend two books. If I could say two books,
Please.
The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz is, I think, one of the most valuable resources ever as far as managing your mind. He's like, before The Secret was even a thing, like like in the 60s, Maxwell Maltz discovered the principles of reprogramming your mind and visualizing your results. And I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredibly powerful book, and people should read it every year. Is my opinion. Every year you should read it just to remind yourself.
Could you repeat that one more time?
It's called The New Psycho-Cybernetics. It's like an updated edition of the original book. It's got a foreword by Dan Kennedy.
Okay.
And I highly recommend that book, as well as Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes, that's a good one.
Oh my God. I've read that book like half a dozen times, and every time I get stuff out of it. It's profound.
Talk about putting things in perspective.
Talk about finding the joy and the magic in suffering in such a profound way. I mean, like, this guy survives a concentration camp and loses everybody in his life. And it becomes the greatest blessing, not just for him, but for the millions of people around the world who have benefited from the psychological processes that he created. Like, he created an entire school of thought and psychology out of that experience that has changed the world fundamentally. Amazing. It's like crazy to think about. So, I mean, those two books, you read those two books and you're going to have an entirely different understanding of your mind and of yourself and of the world. I mean, personally. And I'd love to offer for all the listeners of this show, if you want to jump on a free half-an-hour coaching call with me, I would love to connect with you. Just you can go ahead. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And, I'm always looking to, meet and experience different people and support them in breaking through whatever it is that they're coming up against, Well,
you better get your phone ready, or you're online, because you're going to, I know you're going to get a lot of responses on this one, because what you've shared with us has just been really powerful. So what's the best way to reach you?
Okay. So, I mean, you can go to my website. Well, for the email thing, you can just go to Matt, that's MAT, 1T, at mattschafer.com. That's MATSHAFFER.com. That's my email. And then my website is just mattschafer.com, just MATSHAFFER.com. And there you can set up a link to get on a discovery call with me. I got a blog. I have a great Facebook page. I am Matt Schafer, Facebook / I am Matt Schafer. And, I'm always posting videos and content on that. So, I mean, I'm continuously putting out new stuff. Like, this interview is live right now on my Facebook page.
All right. Super. So, and for anybody who may be driving right now while they're listening to this podcast, we will put the names of the books, the authors, in the show notes. We'll make it as easy as possible for you to be able to go back and make sure you get all the information that Matt has been so generous in sharing.
Yeah. And guys, if you could just put Bank Free Blueprint in the subject line of your email, I get a ton of emails. So putting Bank Free Blueprint in the subject line will help me, pick you guys out efficiently out of the, chaos.
Great. And for anyone that is listening to this podcast, if you like what you hear, I would love it if you'd share it with your friends, if you'd write a review on iTunes, anything that we can do to get word out about the abundance of life, the abundance of everything that we do, living in abundance rather than scarcity. And just, I think that there's so much power in what Matt has shared. And so really would appreciate any reviews, any comments. And you can always reach me at tom@tombraegelmann.com with any comments, any questions, if you ever have ideas on what you'd like to hear on one of the podcasts, just share it. We'll do everything we can to get the best, highest qualified speakers like Matt on our interviews. And if you are if you want to subscribe, again, it's iTunes, Stitcher, or what is the other one? It is
SoundCloud.
It is it's SoundCloud.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So would love to have you join us. And Matt, I really appreciate you taking the time, and this has been just amazing. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. It was my pleasure. It's always a blast talking to you, and I hope your audience got a little inspired out of this. That would be fantastic. And yeah, I look forward to hanging out with you again soon, man. I love you to death.
Absolutely. Love you too. Thanks, Matt.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.